Hello, good evening, everyone. Uh, Good evening. I believe that the first time we are meeting this semester, uh, under the platform of uh, documentary film production. Uh, we're going to be looking at documentary film production, the issues uh, that have to do with uh, the meaning of film, the history of film, principles of film form and film style, classification of film, components of film and film theory. That's what we'll be looking at this week. Uh, Quickly, I want to say, what is film? What is film? Film is a medium of mass communication whose main components of production technology are the camera and editing equipment, the film projector being the main reception technology. We can also consider film as a motion picture, you know, which is a medium of mass communication, which has touched every segment of society, virtually everyone, every part of the society has been touched by film. Therefore, film could be described as an art. It could also be described as a business, which makes those who create it take pride in their creations, which are essentially designed to entertain as well as inform us. It is a significant medium of communicating ideas in today's world. So essentially, that's the meaning of film. Let's move to the history of film itself. Uh, the invention of photography played a big role in the history of film. Joseph Niepce was the first person to make practical use of a film and camera around 1816. But as regards motion picture, which is different from photography now, photography has to do with still pictures. Two people were noted to be trying to capture and portray motion between the 1870s and the 1880s. And these persons are Etienne Jules Marey and Edward Muybridge. Both Marey and Muybridge had influence on Edison, Thomas Edison, who is now credited with developing the motion picture industry in the United States of America, and of course, by extension, the world. The real stage for the development of the projected image was set in 1877, and that was among the Lumiere brothers, Louis and Auguste, uh, who made the next major advance in 1895. And of course, they patented their cinematograph. Edison recognized the advantage of the cinematograph of the Lumiere brothers over his own kinetoscope, and consequently invented the vitascope, an improvement on the cinematograph, a machine that projected motion pictures on a screen large enough for everybody in the theater to view at the same time. But this is basically the rough history of film. But if we come to Africa, film film arrived Africa around 1896 through the vaudeville magician who stole a theatrograph projector from the Alhambra Palace Theatre in London and took it to South Africa, where he later introduced the first moving image on the continent. But if we come further down to Nigeria, we will see that film came in the context of colonialism. The history of film in Nigeria dates back to 1903 when the first film was screened at the Clover Hall in Lagos. But today, it has become big business with the code name Nollywood, which, as you know, has now gone global. Having looked at history of film briefly from the global to Africa and to Nigeria, let's look at the principles of film form and film style. Film form is a system of relationship that we can perceive among the elements in the whole film. Element in this context is a system, is the system element in this context is a small but necessary part of the film. While the system is a unified set of related interdependent elements that depend on and affect one another. What are some of these elements that constitute the film? We're talking about acting, we're talking about directing, we're talking about light, we're talking about costume, we're talking about sound, we're talking about music, and so on and so forth. But generally, the principles of film form are discussed and perceived under functions, similarity and repetition, difference and variation, development, unity, and disunity. So when we talk about film form, we're talking about these small but necessary parts of the film, the elements. Now, let's go further to consider style, film style. It could be seen that film form refers to the principle by which a film is structured. We've agreed on that. However, film form cannot be discussed independent of its style or technique adopted in structuring it or in laying its outline. Outlined here are 4 techniques or styles, talking about mise en scène, talking about cinematography, talking about shot to shot, and sound in cinema styles or techniques. I repeat that. Outline 4 techniques or styles are 1. Mise en scène, cinematography, shot to shot, and sound in cinema styles and technique. Now let's go further. Let's look at the classification of film. I haven't looked at just a minute. Hello? I hope you're with me. Well, I haven't looked at, hello? Okay. I haven't looked at the idea of film form and film style. I want us to look at the classification of film. Genre could be seen as kind, type, or category, especially of works of art and literature. It is therefore an index for classification of artistic materials such as films, drama, music, dance, and even literary works. It is used in determining the specific type of classification into which a work of art can be categorized. Genre provides the template for analyzing the characteristics of artistic presentations so that an understanding can be achieved as to the specific kind of work that is assessed. Some of the types of film genres in scholarship are westerns, gangsters, musicals, war films, thrillers, spectacles, crime, fiction, and horror films. Others are documentary, feature, experimental, and animated films. So there are so many types of genres, just the way we've mentioned. What does genre do? It aids society to aggregate efforts towards a specific production style that can transmit a processed message through a film type. However, these functions are influenced by several factors. Whatever genre that we're looking at, whatever classification of film we're looking at, whether westerns, whether gangsters, whether musicals, whether war films, whether thrillers, whether spectacles, whether science fiction or horror films, they are influenced by several factors, such as the culture, the society, the environment, and of course, science. So if you're doing westerns, if you're doing gangsters, it's likely that the culture from which the film is springing forth will influence it. It could be the society, it could be the environment, and it could be the available uh, uh, science, the science that is available. Having looked at that, I want us to also look at the components of film. Mind you, we've established that the classification of film is influenced by four major factors. We talked about culture, we talked about society, uh, we talked about environment, of course, we talked about science. So the next thing I want us to look at today is components of film. The basic film components are theme, plot, characters, language, and setting. I take that again. The basic film components are theme, plot, character, language, and setting. As you may know, the theme is that central idea that a particular film explores. The plot is the sequencing of events because the characters has to do with the human action, the human element that play roles within the film. And of course, the language is the key, the access. Is it English language? Even in English language, is it pedestrian language? Is it elevated language? Is it indigenous African language like Edo, Yoruba, Igbo, as the case may be? And of course, the setting has to do with the environment. And let's concentrate on the setting. Setting has three elements. You could have the physical setting of the film or the physical setting of the script. Two, general significant occurrence which grows out of a character's social, moral, and cultural intercourse within each of the settings. And of course, the atmosphere, which embodies the emotional characteristics of each setting. So for a film or film production, the setting is very critical because we say it has three elements: the physical setting of that script, the general significant occurrence which grows out of the character's social, moral, and cultural intercourse within each of the settings, the atmosphere which embodies the emotional characteristics of each setting. Today, the last thing I want us to consider the film theories. There are so many film theories that basically we are looking at some of the theories can be used in appreciating film. You know, we've told you that when you want to look at film, you may want to look at it from the angle of, from a perspective, to be the theory of realism, the formalist theory, the auteur theory, electric and synthetic theory, structuralism and semiology, historiography, and so on and so forth. When we simply talk about the theory of realism, we are looking at it from the realist perspective. How real is this? Is it true to life? When we talk about the auteur, for example, you want to look at that work from the perspective of the directorial approach. When we see a Tunde Kelani film today, I think one of the latest now is Anila. We see that a Kelani trait. So you want to look at the word auteur is a French word meaning owner, author. So the director has his own characteristics. Let's take the global Matt Davis. In his things, he has certain characteristics that we can see and say this is a Mel Mel Gibson's film. Then, of course, we look at the formalist theory, looking at it from the angle of formalism, and of course, historiography. We want to look at it from the historical perspective. So these are the components and some of the theories of film. I want you to let's stop sharing for a while and talk. Stop sharing. So that is the introductory part of this course. You know, we talked about the idea of documentary film production. This is our first virtual meeting. As I have indicated in my email to all of us, that we'll be meeting 4 p.m. every Saturday for this course. I want to encourage us to always make it a date. Thank you for listening. I hope we'll learn one or two things at the end of this course. I also hope that we'll be able to try our hand on using our smartphones to make maybe 1 minute documentary film. Look at any issue around us and do a documentary film. Good evening. See you next week. I forgot, I'm sure you must have seen my name on the platform. My name is Isaac Formware. I'll be facilitating the conference. Shalom.